Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm a child psychiatrist and parent coach, and I'm also a mum. And today I'm going to be talking about whether the experience of being in this crisis, the coronavirus crisis, can really be valuable for our kids and how we can help that happen as parents, really. If you do like my videos, please do subscribe either on YouTube or like my page on Facebook. And if you do subscribe to my email list, you'll also be getting an extra tip. So please do have a look at that. Otherwise, stay tuned and I'll talk about my thoughts on this. Now, in many ways, I think actually living through a crisis like we're living through now with our kids is actually a really, really valuable experience for them. I genuinely do think that, because we are being forced to live in a way that's really different potentially from how we usually live. It will be very different for different families. So for some families, the way they're having to live now is maybe not that different. If you're a family of introverts who've always done lots of things at home, it probably won't feel that much different or necessarily as stressful. But for families who are really used to being out a lot and socialising a lot or doing a lot of things out of the house, it is going to be much, much more stressful, and you'll be having to live in a way that's really different from how you usually live. And I think actually acknowledging that and seeing that for what it is, seeing the difficulty with that, is really key, because basically you have to develop flexibility. So as an adult, you have to develop flexibility to live in that way, but you also have to help your child develop that flexibility. And having to stay in the house a lot and not see people as much and not communicate necessarily with people as much face to face, it presents a lot of different opportunities to learn how to be present, to learn how to be really present with yourself, to spend time with yourself and in your own company, and also to be motivated intrinsically, to find things that motivate you and to get a sense of achievement from what you do individually, rather than necessarily having lots of feedback from other people telling you that you're doing, something really well. And that can be a really different experience for some children. Some children do grow up really used to feeding off that, the other people telling them what to do. And I think actually it's really important that we help our children have some sense of self-motivation and kind of intrinsic achievement, because those are things that will really help them later on in life, because they're not always going to have other people telling them how amazing they are, or they might be doing something that other people aren't particularly interested in. And if they can have an intrinsic sense of motivation, that they're doing something because they really want to, it's actually a really, really important thing to have. And I'm not just talking about older children. Actually, you can start to develop some skills of being with yourself and not always having to have another person around you. Really, for toddlers and preschoolers as well. And often they will require more attention and supervision, obviously. But I think sometimes we don't even try to give them that time, to really find ways of entertaining themselves in a safe way, obviously. But that, we just sort of jump in and try and entertain them, or they might get a tablet or whatever. And sometimes that's what you need to do. But I think, finding this time to really work on that, because we are able to be more present in the house with our children, to really find that time to just let them kind of experiment with being on their own, even for brief periods of time. It is a skill. I think being with yourself, entertaining yourself, so beating boredom, and intrinsic achievement and motivation, they're really things that are skills, and they're great skills to learn. And I think sometimes we don't necessarily think about them because there is so much going on in the world around us, and it's very easy to get caught up in the kind of external world, really, and not necessarily think so much about our own selves and how we can function without needing as much of that extrinsic support, really, and motivation. So I think what you can kind of do as a parent, really, to make it a really valuable experience is, first of all, really reflect with your children if they're able to talk about it. And I think, really any school age child you can start talking to about this, is how different it is, how we do have to be more flexible and what that means. And that, as adults we have to be more flexible, and why that might be difficult, kind of being honest about that, but naming it for what it is. Really thinking with them about what helps them feel motivated, what makes them feel that they've achieved things. I think you can create quite a lot of variety at home actually. I think often people feel it's boring, or that kids end up watching loads of telly, and of course there will be some of that. There will be YouTube and telly and all those things, but there is lots of variety of things that you can do at home as well. They can be things you do together, they can be things you do for fun, they can be things that you do very specifically to improve your skills at something, and sometimes doing things that help show progress, so doing repetitive skills. I think learning an instrument is a really good example. Actually, it's a good time to do it, and you can see progress even, without having to leave the house or anything like that. You can see it yourself, and helping your child learn that skill of seeing the progress they're making, of noticing the progress they're making on their own without an external person having to come up and say, oh, you're doing that loads better than you did before. Actually, them being able to notice their own progress, I think, is really key. So you're really helping them to tune into themselves and to become more sensitive to what helps them relax, what helps them feel like they want to do more of that, what helps them feel like they've achieved something. And I think that's the last thing, is really creating a kind of blueprint with your child about what helps them be okay. Because if what helps them be okay is external things, sometimes that's going to be achievable, but other times that's not going to be available to them. And all of us will have ways of coping with things that do involve other people, which involve meeting our friends or chatting to them, or doing those kinds of things. And sometimes they're available, but I guess they're not as reliably available, and especially at a time of crisis like this. You might be able to chat to your friends, but you probably won't be able to see anyone face to face, really. So having ways of coping that are really reliant on yourself or your very immediate family are really important. And I think sometimes developing those with your child, kind of sitting down and really creating a blueprint. And it might be things like doing exercises, or doing meditation, or having some time to do something creative, and what that creative thing might be. So it's colouring or drawing, or creating videos, or doing like makeup tutorials, and it doesn't really matter what it is, but really being able to home in on that for your child and say, okay, so what makes you feel like your day has gone positively? Like, what kinds of things have to be in your day to make it feel worthwhile, to make you feel positive, that really only rely on you? Because actually they will then have that blueprint for whenever they need it again. And it's that idea for them to understand that you can have your own toolbox. Obviously it will change as they get older, but the idea that there is such a thing as having your own toolbox that you keep on kind of updating and using if you need to, is actually like a massively important skill to have. Like, if you can teach your children this at this kind of time, it's really key. And for some of us, it will be the first time we're thinking about it as parents, because we haven't had to do that kind of thing before. So it might be a very valuable exercise for us as well. And what I always say is, whenever we have to live in a very different way, there will be some things we learn which are so valuable that we keep on doing them, or we keep on using them even when life returns back to kind of how it was. So I think it's actually a really great time to learn potentially new skills, or to hone in on the skills that you already have and kind of go even further into them. But just being honest about the fact that it potentially could be very hard, but that's okay, because learning genuinely is a bit tricky. And it's okay for it to be a bit difficult to become more flexible, or to learn these new skills. But actually, it's a really good time to do that. So for me, those are the kinds of things that make this experience a really valuable one for your kids, and really give them that sense of confidence, and that they are in control of how they feel, and that they know what they need to feel better, and they know what they need to do to make themselves feel okay. And really that gives massive confidence when dealing with challenges out there, when you know that you can make yourself feel okay enough to meet those challenges. Really, really amazing skill to have. So in some ways I'm choosing to see the awful thing that is happening I guess in a more positive light, in terms of parenting, and how we can make it something valuable for our children out of this really, really difficult time for everyone, really. So if you like this video, as I said, please do either subscribe or like my Facebook page, and hopefully I will see you soon.